Hi, my name is Tricia Sinclair, and I'm going to be repeating the presentation that I did at the Scottish Summit this year, which is about OmniChannel Engagement Hub. Now, we were lucky enough to get a few sponsors that allowed us to put this event on, courtesy of Mark Christie and Ian Connolly. So I'd really like to thank everyone that was involved. It was a superb event. And just a little bit about me. These are my socials. If you have any questions after the presentation, please feel free to get in touch with me by any of these means. I do have a blog. It's mainly about Azure DevOps, but I will also be blogging a bit more about Omnichannel, etc. Now, this presentation is really quite a whistle-stop tour of OmniChannel. I'm going to introduce, first of all, what exactly is OmniChannel. We're going to go through three of the channels that are currently available: chat, Facebook, and SMS. Talk about some of the gotchas that you'll have, some of the tips that I recommend, and also the features that are available within each channel. We'll also then tie in reporting, talk about licensing, and then what's available in the roadmap at this present moment. So let's step back a bit. This is me. Now, this is me when I was 18 years old. I had just started attending the University of Derby, but I was lucky enough to have my tuition and my board or my rent paid for by my parents. So I didn't actually have a student loan or anything like that, which is great. But I needed to pay for my own food and going out, etc. So I took a job in a call center. I worked at Eggbank as a sales associate, and at Eggbank, what I did was I sold balance transfers, loans, insurance, but my main aim at Eggbank as a sales associate was really to answer queries such as what's my balance or can you increase my credit limit. In order to do this, we had to toggle between different systems. The main two systems were FDR and GTX. I remember it so clearly. One was a console application, and you'd have to use shortcodes to get around. That was FDR, and we would have to basically validate the caller and enter notes in both FDR and GTX as we went along. GTX was used more for the credit limit increases, checking your statements, and sending documentation, etc. Now, as a call center associate or sales associate at Eggbank, we obviously had to meet KPIs in order to get our bonuses. And the main two KPIs were average handling time, which effectively is how quickly can we get the customer off the phone, but also average wrap up time, which is how quickly can we get to the next caller. Although we had those two KPIs, we also needed to ensure that we had a first time resolution, which meant that we needed to answer the question correctly and prevent that customer from calling in again. It did mean, though, that we had to remember quite a lot of things or sometimes put the customer on hold to go check information, etc. Now, with all that, I still managed to kind of have a good wrap up time, etc., because I had different tips. I would write my notes inside of like Notepad and copy and paste it into the different systems. So I really just created my own little mini workarounds. But to be honest, I really enjoyed that time of my life. It was great. However, when I graduated, I was lucky enough to enter the dynamic space. And in one of my projects, I was able to implement a product that's known as Unified Service Desk. Now, Unified Service Desk allowed me to reflect on my years as a call center agent because the main aim of Unified Service Desk, or USD, was to provide a holistic view to a call center agent in order to improve their experience. So if I had that when I was working at Eggbank, I wouldn't need to toggle between systems. I would be able to use USD in order to just move across different tabs and answer the question as it came in. The benefit of USD as well is that it also integrates with CRM, which meant that I would have access to knowledge articles. So I wouldn't have to put the customer on hold and it would be a more seamless conversation. Now, USD also integrates with other ISVs to provide telephony integration or chat via, for example, ISVs such as Live Assist or CafeX. So that basically means that we have one application where we can access everything that we would need to access as a call center agent. Now, why am I talking about USD and why am I even talking about myself as a call center agent? Because that brings us nicely into what exactly is omnichannel. Omnichannel, I like to refer to as USD Lite. Now, it offers pretty much very similar benefits in that it provides one area that a call center agent can access all the information that they need to access in order to answer queries to a customer or actually deal with customer inquiries, right? However, unlike USD, Omnichannel is based in the cloud, which basically means that we can only include applications that are also based in the cloud. With USD, you can embed or include on-premise applications. Okay. Another another difference that Omnichannel has with USD is that Omnichannel has its own standard native channels, such as chat or Facebook, whereas USD, for example, it does need Live Assist in order to have that capability or chat capabilities. Because Omni-Channel Engagement Hub is currently built on top of Customer Service Enterprise, we also are able to leverage things like queues or standard case management features such as knowledge articles, the business processes, etc. And in today's demo, we're really going to be touching on how all of that comes together. So we're not going to be going into how it's created, but how we can leverage all the functionality that's possible to provide one cohesive experience for an agent and a supervisor. So let's go into the first demo. In the first demo, we're going to basically be utilizing the standard Power Apps portal. And in that portal, we've got a chat widget embedded in there. So let's have a look at what that looks like now. So this is the Power App portal that I've embedded my chat widget onto. As you can see, it's quite a standard design. This is what the look and feel of it would be if you just embedded it. I have changed the color, I've added an image. You can also change the text. And this is currently the possible changes that you could make using just the standard Omni-Channel Engagement Hub. If you wanted to customize the button further, you'd have to create your own button and using JavaScript integrate with the Omni-Channel Engagement Hub service that it would allow you to initiate a chat similar to how the standard would initiate that chat. So clicking on that button, it takes me to the pre-chat questionnaire that I've actually configured. There are different types of controls or field types that you can include in a pre-chat questionnaire, namely text, the list, the multi-text option, or the multi-text box that you could actually use for more just additional information that might assist the agent to understand what the issue is about. But pre-chat questionnaires are also useful to direct or route the chat to the appropriate queue or the appropriate agent. So if we basically populate the name here and specify where we're contacting the agent, click submit. Now, before I click submit, just draw your attention to the fact that you can also include required or unrequired fields. in the pre-chat questionnaire. So clicking on submit, the first thing that it's going to take us to is a chatbot. Now, this chatbot is actually leveraging the Power Virtual Agent integration that's available with OmniChannel. The reason we can use Power Virtual Agent is because Power Virtual Agent is utilizing the Azure Bot framework. You can create your own chatbot, but it must use the Azure Bot framework. You cannot use other chatbots with OmniChannel at this point, just chatbots that leverage that leverage the Azure Bot framework. Now, the cool thing about this is with PVA, you can utilize multi-options with Power Apps portal. And so we can have a better experience for our customers, so they don't have to figure out what to type. They can actually just click on what they need to click on. So just populate waste management inquiry and just go into a bit more detail. Specify bin collection and collection dates. Now, what happens if the bot cannot answer the question? Because obviously the main aim behind the Power Virtual Agent is really to deflect away from agents. We don't want our agents to be hammered by questions that can really be dealt with by, for example, a chatbot or a knowledge article. So we provide as much ability for customers to self-serve before having to go through to an agent. But if they did need to speak with an agent, using Power Virtual Agent or even a standard chatbot that's using Azure Bot framework, that chat can be escalated to an agent. So I've specified that I want to talk to an agent, and straight away what's going to happen is going to go from available and have that chat be routed to me because I'm the only available agent at this time. The fact that I'm available, it will now go into the fact that I'm busy because I'm now on a call, or I'm now on a chat, or I'm now involved in a conversation. Okay. On top of that as well, all the details that we sent through to the bot is now visible to the agent. So I have the ability to get a heads up as to what was discussed. Now, there are other things that can be sent through. So, for example, the different topics that was discussed in the different topics that the Power Virtual Agent dealt with, those can actually all be sent through to the agent, so they can actually see what was discussed, all the different things that was discussed in one go. Another thing as well is you'll see that I haven't actually had to search for the customer. And the reason behind this is because there are certain fields that, when included in a pre-chat questionnaire, will go away and confirm if that record exists in Dynamics as standard. And these are the full name, and it will search for a customer or a contact rather, and the case number, which will go away and search for a case and the contact associated to the case. And it will link it here. Now, it doesn't mean that that visitor, that customer has gone through authentication. In fact, it doesn't mean that. And I'll show you here in visitor details, for example, it shows you whether or not that customer is authenticated or not. It will also show you the location. And the location is also useful because, for example, we have different ways of routing conversations, one of which could be skills-based routing. Say, for example, you have a chat that's initiated in Paris. You might actually want to route that to an agent that is fluent in French. And this allows you to do that. Another thing as well that's available in the conversation screen is the agent script. Now, before I move on to the agent script, the conversation screen, as you can see here, is a standard CRM or standard dynamics form, which is configurable and customizable. So I've actually added this control to the screen, although the control is actually a part of the productivity tools that you can install once you've included OmniChannel Engagement Hub into your environment. So with the agent script, you can have multiple agent scripts, and one of them that I've created specifies that first of all, we need to introduce ourselves. So greet the customer with a message utilizing the quick reply feature. The quick reply feature really allows us to include a large number of text and just not have to type it all in ourselves, but utilize like short codes. So if I put #Q, hello, it searches the list of quick replies I've created for where we've actually said hello. As you can see, we can include what's also known as slugs. Slugs basically is a placeholder for text that is included in Dynamics. So the first name of the agent. So it will translate to the first name of who I'm logged in as. And slugs can be used throughout OmniChannel for different reasons. So if I send this to the agent, or if I send this to the customer will also get to see this in their window. The next thing that I'd like to show is there are some situations where I recall, obviously, working whilst I was working at Egg, where I would actually need some guidance, some support. I'd have to put the call on hold. I'd have to go away and validate some information because you can't remember everything. So it would actually be very useful to have some kind of assistance whilst you're on a call, something that would perhaps go away and validate information and come back to you so you don't have to go away and check different systems just to provide some information. So I'm going to provide an example of what we can use as standard in OmniChannel that would provide this. So I need to know my bin collection date. Now, there would actually be a knowledge article, I'm sure, that will provide this information. However, instead of the agent having to go away and search for the knowledge article in the application tab, what we have is the concept of Smart Assist. And what Smart Assist does is that actually goes away. It uses the conversation text, and it can either go away and search for a knowledge article. It can go and actually search Dynamics or other systems, because to be honest, this is actually Azure Bot. This is utilizing the Azure Bot framework. It is a bot, and it is code, right? So we are actually now utilizing code, whereas before it was all configured. This is using code, which basically makes it a bit more extensive and flexible in terms of what you can do. However, the limitation to this is we can't pass previous information, so the context of the information to make that search more applicable, or even we can't pass through details of the customer, so details of the customer to make it a bit more personal to that particular customer. So we can't have, for example, specialized deals that they might be eligible for. It will all at this point be very general information that's provided. But using Smart Assist, we can extend what's known as macros and or actions to easily, quickly create different records. So for example, what I'm doing here is I'm leveraging a macro that will allow me to open and send through this knowledge article. So if I click on open on that, it will take me to the knowledge article search page and then allow me to send the article to the customer. Okay. So that's one thing. The next thing that I want to demonstrate is the fact that you actually see the sentiment here. The sentiment is it's slightly negative. What it's doing is it's looking at the conversational text that's in this chat, and it's using sentiment analysis in order to identify the sentiment of the customer. This sentiment is going to also be visible to my supervisor, who can, if they wanted to, join the chat, and I'll demonstrate this later to try to assist in turning the sentiment around. However, as an experienced agent, I should be able to do that myself. As it goes through the chat, you'll actually see the sentiment either go very negative or neutral and positive, etc. The sentiment analysis does work with multiple languages. I tested it with Russian, that worked well. It didn't work with Georgian because Georgian is not supported. The sentiment just went away. So it does work with different languages. Now, the fact that we've actually introduced ourselves, we can actually mark that as complete by just clicking on the icon. The next thing to do is we want to be able to create a case. Now, when we create a case, what this is also doing is this is using a macro and pulling information from the conversation that we've had so far in order to create the case. So let me create the case now, and you'll see that a new tab is opened up. This tab is going to be pre-populated with the contact details, as you can see here. And all I need to do now is enter the case title and explain what the case was about. So, bin collection date query. Now, how are we pre-populating this? This again is using slugs. So when you're using OmniChannel, you will actually get very familiar with slugs as they're used in and around OmniChannel for different reasons. Now, we've actually had two tabs have opened up, one through the Smart Assist, one through the agent script for macros, but we've also got other tabs as well that are just available. Now, these are known as, well, this is the application tab area, and we can customize the tabs are available in the application per channel. So these tabs are only available for based upon the channel that we've entered. And if I click on the intranet, what I've actually done is I've embedded the Scottish Summit website inside of this tab. So imagine if you wanted to include your own intranet, you could actually do that to allow the agent to have direct access to things like an external knowledge base or an external system, perhaps. That, in a nutshell, is what I wanted to demonstrate that's available within the chat channel. There are other things such as data masking, proactive chat, etc., but I won't be demonstrating it in this instance. The next channel that I wanted to demonstrate is the Facebook channel. Now, with the Facebook channel, it pretty much works quite similar to the portal channel. However, if I just type in hello, it doesn't have the concept of pre-chat questionnaires, and it can also leverage the Power Virtual Agent, similar to OmniChannel. However, you'll be able to see that we don't have the multi-text options because that is not supported within a Facebook chat. What I can do is I can actually type my responses if I wanted to, or I could just directly ask to speak to an agent. When I ask to speak with an agent through the Facebook integration, it will also come straight through to that agent. You'll see that you'll see that the name has actually been found, so it's automatically associated the contact. If it's the incorrect contact, I can clear it and I can search for the correct contact and create a new record and associate it if I wanted to. Okay. you'll see here that the application tabs looks quite different to what we had in the previous chat, where we had the intranet and the Bing search, etc. We don't have that here. However, the everything else is pretty much the same. So we have our agent script. We can utilize quick reply just like we had before. We can mark it as done, right? We can ask for additional information such as when is my bin collection dates? And we can see here that we also have access to Smart Assist, where we can then open the knowledge article. We can send the knowledge article to the contact or to Jody. And we can also create a case. So all the functionality that we had with chat, we also have with Facebook. And this is basically ensuring that the agent has a unified experience, and it reduces the amount of time that you'll need to train someone, because irrespective of the channel that the conversation is coming from or via, the experience for the agent is pretty much the same. The final channel that I want to go through is the SMS channel. Okay, but before I go through the SMS channel, what I want to do is just explain a little bit more about some of the tips and tricks of the chat channel. So with the chat channel, you'll notice that when we actually passed the chat through, it came up at the top right with the fact that that chat was coming through. It had the name, it had the amount of time that the chat was waiting, or the customer was waiting. That template, that is basically via template, and that can be customized. So we could include additional information, for example, information that they included in pre-chat. Now, we did actually do a reactive chat, which is where the customer had to click on the button and request to speak to us. Well, we can also include proactive chats as well, where we could, for example, have a chat that is a chat button pop up for the customer to click on if they've entered something incorrectly a number of times, or they've gone to a different screen and come back also a number of times, if they've stayed on a screen too long. This is all done via JavaScript code inside the portal. So it's quite configurable in terms of when you want the chat button to appear. Now, transcripts can be downloaded by the customer. However, they have to download it before the chat ends. If they try to end the chat before downloading the transcript, they'll be prompted to advise them that if they want the transcript, they will need to cancel coming out of the chat, download the transcript, and then end the chat. There is also a workaround if they do actually choose to get the chat later on, because the transcript is also stored inside of Dynamics. So you can download the transcript and send it to them via email. We discussed the chat button design earlier in terms of how that can be configured and the flexibility of that button design via either the OmniChannel Engagement Hub or creating your own chat button to further extend that. We showed Smart Assist, and we talked about the limitations of Smart Assist in terms of you can't pass through variables such as the contact information to make it more personalized to that customer. And also application templates we talked about in terms of how we can extend the application tabs per channel. So for Facebook integration, we talked about how we could leverage Power Virtual Agent. You could also leverage Azure Bot integration. We talked about how irrespective of Azure Bot integration or Facebook integration, we couldn't use multi-options because that is not currently supported by Facebook. And this is a limitation of the Azure Bot framework and not OmniChannel. However, if you did want to have the ability to click on buttons, you could utilize what's known as hero cards inside of the Azure bot framework. Now, you could also have per multiple Facebook pages integrated into OmniChannel as well. So you're not restricted on just having one. You could have multiple Facebook pages. And we talked about how sentiment analysis will work irrespective of which channel you're in. So it doesn't matter if it's chat, SMS, or Facebook. You will also be able to leverage the standard sentiment analysis that's available within OmniChannel. So let's have a look now at the SMS channel. So in the Scottish Summit session, I actually had everyone send me a text message. So it's quite interactive. But for this, what I'm going to do is I will send myself a text message just to show how SMS conversations will enter the OmniChannel agent dashboard. So here we are. We have the notification that pops up. All we need to do now is click on accept. And similar to the other channels, we'll have a new session created. Unlike the other channels, what you'll see is in order to configure or set up the customer, it's not automatic, if that makes sense, because it's not a part of the number is not part of the standard objects that can be set up or attributes that can be set up. So to do this, I'll actually need to search for the number myself and associate it with an associated there. Okay, so the agent script still works the same. I can use my quick reply and send it through via chat. And also, there's one thing about agent scripts is you can have a different agent script that's tied to a particular channel. So if, for example, for SMS messages, you need to respond differently or you need to factor in different things, that is configurable. So this is all configurable within OmniChannel Engagement Hub. But really what this is showing is that irrespective of the channel that the conversation is initiated from, the experience for the agent can be the same, and this will reduce the amount of time that's needed to train an agent. We can also have, for example, Smart Assist that will also work with SMS as well. And also going down in the screen, which is also actually available on the other channels as well, is the ability to view the recent cases and also the linked records where we can see all the previous activities that are associated with that contact and also the cases as well. And as I mentioned, the conversation form is customizable. What is not customizable is the conversation timeline, which is this conversation timeline. This cannot be customized at this present point in time. With SMS messages, it will take, obviously, it can go over a series of days. The agent might actually go off shift. So what you might actually want to do is transfer the SMS to a different queue, which you can do. Okay, what this means is that someone else in that queue could pick up the next message that's sent from the customer, and that conversation can continue. Other things that you can do is you can actually consult with other agents. And what this basically will mean is you can have an internal conversation, and a conversation that is associated to this chat, but not privy to the customer. What that means for transcripts is that the conversation that you had internally will not be available on the transcript, so the customer won't see it, and what's stored inside of Dynamics will not include that internal conversation. Okay, You can transfer, as I mentioned. You can also take notes, which are then added to the case form. And you can also directly from here access the knowledge articles area. So really, in a nutshell, that is a quick overview of the three different channels that are available right now as standard. There is another channel, which is the entity channel. What this basically means is that entities that are created in CDS can be surfaced inside the agent dashboard. So if I actually take you back to the agent dashboard, those conversations would appear here, because there are two different types of conversations. One where you can push a conversation, which means that the agent has to accept it, or one where they can pick it. And that's basically where you would utilize your entity channels. So an example could be an email is sent. It could automatically create a case, and that case can then be surfaced inside a queue for an agent to pick from whilst they work on other support cases. So what does the actual experience look like for the supervisor? Well, the supervisor has access to the ongoing conversation dashboard that will show the list of conversations that are currently ongoing. And also it shows who is having the conversation, as well as the sentiment associated to each of the conversation and the channels that the conversations originated from. Now, imagine one of the conversations might be negative or even very negative. It might be in their best interest to monitor what's going on in that conversation. So they can click on the monitor button, and then they can join the chat and instantly have an internal discussion with the agent. Now, because it's internal, it will not be visible to the customer, but the supervisor will be able to guide the agent to turn things around, especially if it's a new agent that might actually need support. This will be very invaluable. If they did want to join the conversation, all they need to do is click on the public button. And when they click on the public button, any messages that they type will be visible to both the agent and the customer. And this will also be available in the transcript that's downloaded. Now, when we're talking about reports that the supervisor can access, there is the Insights dashboard, the OmniChannel Insights dashboard, which is really a Power BI embedded dashboard within OmniChannel. And this gives us KPIs such as average handling time, the sentiment rate, the wrap-up time, and even compares the average handling time, etc., per bot and per agent. So it compares what the escalation rates are for the bots and the agents as well. We can drill in further to each metric and actually get access to more data and filter it by, for example, your agents or your queues. There is one additional dashboard that's available, which is the sentiment analysis dashboard. And the sentiment analysis dashboard really provides more metrics, but mainly around the sentiment. With this, you can actually access reports or KPIs such as the sentiment per agent or bot, and utilize natural language querying, which is standard in Power BI, to just ask questions in, well, a natural language, which basically means that if the KPI or the chart that you're looking for is not visible on the standard Power BI chart, you can ask a question in a very natural way and get those results. So we've just shown the two standard reports that are available out of the box with the OmniChannel Engagement Hub. These reports, although are based in Power BI, unlike the other Insights products offered by Microsoft, are actually configurable. The next thing that I want to talk about is licensing. Now, this is as the licensing stands at the moment. Now, if this changes, then obviously I would advise that you refer to the licensing guide that's available on the Microsoft website to ensure that this still stands. But as at today, on the 1st of March, 2020, this is the current licensing situation for OmniChannel Engagement Hub. You will need customer service enterprise, which is $95 per person per month. And I'm doing it in dollars because that's what's available on the website, and you can translate it as you wish. The chat add-on, which is $60 per user per month. Not everyone will need access to all the channels, and this is the main channel that's available. If you do want access to the other channels, such as Facebook or SMS, then you'll need an addition. Then you'll need $75 per month instead of just the $60 per month. So it's one or the other. Digital messaging gives you access to all the channels. Chat just gives you access to chat. If you want access to the reports that are available, you will need Power BI Pro on top of that. That is optional. In terms of the roadmap, what's coming soon is more channels. Microsoft are working on bringing us additional channels. In the next release, we can look forward to having Twitter, WeChat, WhatsApp, Line, as well as Microsoft Teams. We're also able to, right now in preview, utilize co-browse and remote assist. And also coming up, we've got escalation to a voice or video from a chat. Just to recap what we've gone through in this session, we've discussed all the OmniChannel channels, which are chat, SMS, Facebook. We showed how, irrespective of the channel that the conversation originated from, the process for the agent is still the same, ensuring that they have a common process, which requires less training and more familiarity. We talked about pre-chat and how that can allow easier routing to the correct agent. And Power Virtual Agent, we could deflect chats to ensure that the chats that agents are involved with are actually something that they need to be involved with, if that makes sense. We talked about the customizations that are possible. So for example, customization of the Power BI report, the chat button, or even the actual forms, for example, the conversation form, or even the contact, etc. forms, because those are just standard dynamics, model-driven forms. We showed the utilization of quick reply and agent script, how sentiment analysis was uniform and the same throughout all the different channels. And we showed how Smart Assist could actually be used to be effectively an assistant for the agent. So they didn't have to go off and search for data, but it could bring the data to the agent to even further reduce the call handling time that they have. We showed the supervisor dashboard and how the supervisor can overview all the conversations that are currently happening and monitor the conversation, even joining the conversation if they needed to. And also we showed the available reports that are standard within OmniChannel. If you do want any additional info, then I would recommend going to Neil Parkhurst's blog. He does have a really good series on OmniChannel, starting with his introduction to OmniChannel, and he also compares it very well to the Unified Service Desk. You also have access to the Microsoft documentation, which gives you full in-depth information as to how to set up a trial and how to actually configure each of the features that I've demonstrated here. And also we've got EY Kalman, and his blog is also a series on OmniChannel, which I would recommend as well. So if you've got any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to me. As I mentioned, my Twitter handle, my LinkedIn, and also my blog, which you are currently on. Just ask any questions and I'll be happy to support you. Thank you.